Honda has not really been a big name in the electrification space. They've had a few little projects here and there, including the Honda EN1 that was sold here for a while last year. That's now gone, and in its place is this, the Super One, their new really cool Japanese K-car based electric vehicle. But here's the question. Will anyone spend $41,900 on a car this small, knowing it does a little more than 200 kilometers? Not if they're being sensible about it, but I don't think sensible is the point here. Let's have a look. So you can get the Super One in two flavors that are largely the same, except for a few little trim bits outside, specifically the black roof, black spoiler, and some black trim around the back. This one here is that model, the Kuro. But the standard car is $41,900 and this one is $44,900. For that, you're getting a 29.6 kilowatt hour battery and a claimed 253 kilometers of range. That's an NEDC number, and you know what we think of NEDC around here. Go back and watch our recent video with the MG6S for an explanation on that. WLTP, we're hearing from overseas, about 206 kilometers. So it's not wonderful, but then again, recently we drove that Audi one around Auckland and it took us, nearly 8 hours to run out a 200 kilometer range car. So I think for people wanting a city vehicle, it's probably going to be just fine. And this really is a city vehicle. It is small. I'll put the dimensions up on screen. Smaller than the usual small hatchbacks you're thinking. And if you want to go back to the last time Honda sold a car this small, think back to the Honda City, which is one of my favorite cars of all time. Now, if we start at the front, we have this grille. This is made out of shredded bumpers of Honda cars. So that is pretty cool. Here we have the charging port. So it is a 6 kilowatt AC and 50 kilowatt DC charge port. Not massive, but then when you've only got a 30 kilowatt hour battery, it's going to be kind of fine. Honda says 15 to 80% in about 30 minutes. Now I'm wondering, with the charge speed being capped to 50 kilowatts on that, it's because of course when this car was developed in Japan, it was developed for CHAdeMO, and of course CHAdeMO on the older standards generally runs at about 50 kilowatts. Under here, there is no frunk, just a whole pile of motor components, which will be interesting when we get to the back because storage, yeah. Anyway, if we come around the side, these vents here are actually functional. They do allow air through. There's more at the back, and they run through this extra widening here. So this was originally a K car. They've widened out the body to give it a better stance, a better track. So it's legally no longer a K car anymore. But yeah, that looks pretty cool. And the air through there is, I guess, helpful, but keeping in mind it is a bit of a brick. So I'm not sure what aero it's actually going to be. Honda doesn't publish an aero figure for it. Down here, we have some really cool little wheels. They are 15-inch. When was the last time you saw 15-inch wheels on anything that was bigger than a shopping trolley, I guess? But they're a machine face wheel. I really like them, the black, neat style. They look big on this car. That's the joy of having a small car. Come in here, we have black wing mirror caps. I've done this 100 times in recent videos. Normal door handles. So good, so good. We have the black crystal roof on the Kuro here. Rear doors that take you pretty much the back of the car. And if we come around here, at the back, we have the tailgate here. It's not electrified. This black bit here, that's part of the Kuro package as well. If we open it here, it goes all the way down. So really nice and low for loading. But the boot space here is pretty limited. If we come on in, there's a tiny bit more storage here and a Bose subwoofer there for the audio system, but it's pretty compact. Now, not a lot of space here, but it's not too bad. 2 carry-ons, I reckon. Honda says 162 litres, which is tight, though the shape of it is more useful than the number makes it sound. But these seats do fold down quite easily, for that matter. But with those seats down, if you measure the roof, you've got around 900 litres of storage space, which is actually pretty significant. And if you use this as a 2-seat car with a lot of luggage space, then perfect. Right, so the back seat, and this seat has been set for me. So will it pass the Richard test? That is the question. Yeah, not bad. That is actually a decent amount of space, decent footroom. I wouldn't say it's hugely comfortable, but for around town, for a guy my size, fine. For kids, fantastic. There is only 2 seats in the back, but I think as a seat, this is probably not the best aspect of the rear of the Super One. And that's something that Honda's had for a while, and that's called the Magic Seat. So if I jump out of here, and if I pop this seat up, that folds in like that. Locks in, can do the same here. That is called Tour Mode, which means you've got all the space down here for loading items in. You can put stuff plants, all that kind of thing in. Now, I mentioned the Mafia test before. Gavin would normally jump in the boot of a car. I think in this one, what we might try, and this is going to be incredibly undignified, is, can I get in? Oh, am I fitting? No, not quite, but getting close. Right, let's go try at the front where it might be a little more dignified for me. In the front of the Super One, here it feels like a proper car. There is plenty of space up here, even for a guy my size. This seat has lots of underneath support, which is really surprising for a car this size. Nice little side bolsters and a nice big back with a headrest there. So super comfortable from the seat perspective. You've got a cup holder here, looking out. Oh, there's one over here too. So you do have 2 cup holders, which is really, really necessary in a modern vehicle. But outside of that, it's just, yeah, normal. Through here you have buttons for the transmission. You've got a drive mode. We'll talk about those when we're going for a drive. You've got a 9-inch screen here for your various infotainment systems. Now, this is Google connected. You can put apps from the Play Store on there as well. The car itself is also connected. You can app, which you can use for locking and unlocking, charging, pre-scheduling, all those kind of handy things you get with apps these days. Nice big shelf up across here. There's no wireless charging for your phone, though that place looks like it might be set up for it, maybe in some other markets. Nice blue lighting and trim through the interior as well. The materials are okay. This material up here is hard, but not hard, if that makes sense. Window switches here for all 4 doors. It's nice. It feels really high quality in regards to the build. And in the front, more headroom than the back. Steering wheel here, leather wrapped in this, some nice blue stitching to prove that this is a electric vehicle, sporty electric vehicle. Another screen in front of the driver here with all the usual stuff. USB charging up here. Speaker up here, and this gets an 8-speaker Bose system with a subwoofer. So you should be able to bass bounce your way around the city. Not a lot of storage. We do have a glove box here, but kind of already filled with the Honda manual. So not much use there. You've got bottle storage in the doors, but not a lot else really. There's no center console. But look, that's a small quibble for what is a really, really small car. So that's the inside of the car. Let's take it on the road and see what that boost button really does. Right, so driving the Honda Super One. Now, first off, let's talk about driving this in just a starting point. It's pretty good. You don't feel too high upright. The steering wheel comes out to you quite a nice distance. It feels good from that perspective, which is surprising because there's actually no reach adjust on the steering, only tilt adjust, but it works well enough. Similarly, the driver's seat is manual only, but you know, look, you can't get everything in such a tiny car. They've got to sacrifice something for efficiency and price, I'm sure. But yeah, not too bad. Now, we're a bit juddery and probably a bit noisy on these cobblestones through here, but we've been darting around some little streets, and so far it seems to corner quite nicely. Now, we have a multitude of drive modes in this car, starting what we are now on Econ. Now, Econ dials the power back and softens the throttle. It's the efficiency mode. The 1-pedal setting is city, and we'll get to that. You've got variation of regen on that 1-pedal mode that you do through these pedals behind the steering wheel. And let's see what it's like getting away in Econ. Not bad, and that's only using 47 kilowatts of motor power. You go to city mode and it sets the car into a 1-pedal driving mode. You've still got some manual ability to reset your regen. I'm not a big fan of 1-pedal mode, but I think in the city it's probably a pretty good option for most people to be using, to be honest. And if you go up from there, you can go into a normal mode where you, again, can set your regen in various ways. That works. Right, going into sport, you get something that some people may see as a bit of a gimmick, but I don't mind, and that's motor noise. Yes, it sounds like a buzzy little 3-cylinder weapon that a K car should be. And you can drive it in manual. It's a fake manual. It's designed to be like a DSG. So I'm going to drop it down to second. We get a bit of a drop down there, down into first. A little bit of wheel spin there from the front. That's kind of cool. Absolutely pointless, but kind of cool. Up into fourth, to fifth, 7 years. Though interestingly, it wouldn't let me go to 7th there, so it is actually acting properly like a transmission. That's still not using the full power available in this car. No, for that, you've got to push the boost button down there, and that's going to unlock the full 70 kilowatts of power. That's the full 70 kilowatts and 162 newton meters, all of it going through the front wheels. But that gives you just a bit more kick, and we've got an Audi e-tron next to us. Let's see if we can't beat him off the line in our little Super 1. Waiting. And we're off. So it's still not the fastest car in the world, but it sounds like it is. Really nice quick steering. Again, does not have much in the way of ability to handle the wheels being turned and front end torque. I actually think that's something that Honda engineers should probably polish up a little bit. That could get a little annoying, and that's on some pretty dry roads. Though this is a new car, pretty low kilometers, and it's been groomed, and I noticed they were pretty liberal with the tyre polish. Right, we're gonna go on the motorway here, and let's get up to speed and see what it's like on the main road. Take it up to a higher speed. Now, sometimes small cars can be a little bit daunting when you get on a motorway and there's big trucks and SUVs and stuff next to you, but I think because of the visibility in this car, it's got a really big, broad visibility line. To the point where we then point out that this doesn't block visibility. I can see everything around me, and it's not in any way worrying. The ride on the motorway here, I know it's a pretty smooth piece of road. This central bit of Auckland's motorway network is also really good. Road noise and wind noise. There's a bit of wind noise. I'm hearing some coming through, I think, the rear wheel arches, but overall not too bad. But yeah, I think for a little city car, it seems reasonably competent on the highway, which is handy to have. Now, while you're on the highway, let's talk about safety for a second. This does have Honda's pretty full sensing system, which I've always found is one of the more competent level 1.5, level 2 systems, which means lane keep, lane tracing, adaptive cruise control, all those kind of things. You set that through on and off through here. If we turn it on now, the car's going to be doing 79 kilometers an hour, steering in the lane perfectly adequately. You can't expect much more than that from a system that of this nature. I haven't heard a single beep or bong yet, which is an absolute plus in my book. The Japanese are pretty good at not going over the top in those things, but yeah, it's doing that all pretty well. Now, getting up now to 100 kilometers an hour, a little bit more of that fake engine noise. Again, it's just doing it. Plenty of performance, 2 people on board. Absolutely feels like a far bigger, far more mature car. No shortage of power, certainly in boost mode. If I pop it back down to normal mode, yeah, not a lot of performance up at that level. Pretty sluggish, but in that boost mode, totally fine. I just think you'd probably want boost mode for most motorway work. You know, it really is, as they keep pitching it, that's the option. I had a chance to chat earlier with Carolyn McMahon, the managing director of Honda New Zealand, about the car and what they're intending for it in this market. Now, it's not technically a K car, but it is sort of. It's based on one that's a bit wider. I think it pushes it outside of the Japanese tax limits. Could this potentially open the door for more K cars to come to New Zealand, or K-based cars to come to New Zealand from Honda? Because a few do land here as imports already.
Yes, I've seen a few on the roads driving around. Obviously, this is Honda's first introduction of a K-type car into New Zealand. And we'll see what the reaction is like, what the demand is like, and certainly keep an eye on whether or not there's opportunities for other variants of the K-type car in the future.
Because I guess if we go back in history, Honda was known as the small kind of car company, the original Civic, the City. Do you think that there is still a small car market to play in, and you guys want to be part of it?
Well, obviously over the years we've seen the small segment decline, but I think one of the interesting things about Honda is its longevity of technology and development, and the team that put this car together certainly built on the N360 back in the day, and you know, I think you never say never with Honda.
You guys have had a kind of stop-start strategy, I guess, in regards to that. The EN1 came to New Zealand. I thought it was a really good car, but that is now out of market again. Overseas, we've seen that Honda is shifting investment away from battery electric vehicles more into hybrids. What is the future for battery and Honda? I mean, is this going to be another little one hit like the EN1, or are you guys really trying to build a market for this stuff?
Electrification globally had been slowing down, and Yes, Honda had earmarked a very, very large investment into electrification. And I think the end destination is still the same, but we're just calibrating how we're getting there at the moment. So if you look at North America, huge market for Honda, where EVs haven't really been on the same trajectory as other markets. So Honda had to make a decision based on obviously their larger markets and their larger investment. I think what we'll start to see moving forward is the investment that they did make in EVs start to flow through into some of the hybrid offerings. So the investment and the development isn't lost, and I like to say it's just paused for the moment. On a more micro level, we had the opportunity to get EN1 in the last offerings, so we took that opportunity. We thought it was a good introduction into the Kiwi market. It's not part of the product plan at the moment. We're bringing out Super One, and we'll be, looking at other options that are available for us going forward.
Super One, and I've kind of touched on it before. Is this it's going to be a long-term product in your product plan, or is this like the EN1 a short-term opportunity?
Super One is a long-term product, so we've got plans for this model going out into the mid-term.
Right.
Yeah.
How many do you expect to sell?
So this car has taken off globally amazingly, and we've been able to secure, that doesn't sound large, but we've been able to secure 50 units up until March next year. And then what we're doing now is negotiating for more supply into our 27-28 year.
How many of those are already spoken for?
I would say almost a quarter of those are already gone,
Right.
And we're not even on sale yet.
So the Honda Super One, what does this car have? Well, to me, cool factor. This is just such an awesome, fun little smile-inducing car, and people are going to buy it for that. People who buy this are really going to want. I'm not sure this is one you're going to go and put the spec list against other things and decide in that direction. It's really got to be a car that you want. It's got such cool features, the way it looks, the sound, and the way it drives. It drives really nicely. That for some reason could do with a little more front-end power, and I really think it needs that boost mode. Definitely almost permanently on motorways in New Zealand. I'd say the same for other Western countries as well. But I guess that just means you have to really engage with it if you drive it. Now, we will have a full review coming up really soon, probably from Gavin. So don't forget to hit the buttons down there to make sure that you catch that when it arrives. And don't forget to go to evsandbeyond.co.nz and sign up for our newsletter so that as soon as stuff like this comes along, you get a little email and you get to read it straight away. Anyway, catch you later.